I always fancied one of these singing and dancing petrol cans, but they are really expensive, and I'm not a forester. We have a little bit of woodland up there to work on, but I could get away without one. And then last year I went out and bought myself this one, and after a bit of deliberation in the shop, trying to decide between the Husqvarna or the Still, I went for the Husky, because it has a specially designed compartment for keeping my biscuits in. Well, I was really pleased with it. It seemed to work really well, and then apparently it's a common problem. The petrol side lid started sticking, which makes the thing almost useless, and a replacement's over 15 quid. So I'm going to have a look and see if I can do something with it. Down in that end of the thing there is a little plug, nothing underneath it. Took the O-ring off this end, nothing underneath that, and I prised the rubber thing off it, and there's nothing underneath that either. Now, the plastic end, there is a little bit of movement, so I would imagine that is clipped in after assembly, but there doesn't seem to be any way of taking it apart. So I'm just going to take off the some of the diameter of the rim so that I can take the thing apart. There, I've just filed a little bit off the lip. Now, with all the giblets removed from this can, I could try and put the sleeve back over the spout, and it is really, really tight, because the end of this diameter here has swollen quite visibly, and I don't know whether it's swollen because of the effect of the fuel or what, but I'm going to see what I can do about it. Well, I've just measured it, and it's actually about 20 thou bigger than the rest of the diameter, so I really don't know what to do. I think I'm going to just try taking it down with a file and see how I go. Now, the movement of the O-ring will be in that region there, so it doesn't even really matter how coarse my material removal is here, because the O-ring won't get to touch it. So let's have a go. Now I'm just cleaning up those file marks with a bit of 400 grit wet and dry, and the reason I'm using 400 grit is because it happened to be lying on the bench in front of me. Anyway, it slips backwards and forwards much more easily now. Probably still a little bit tight actually, but there's a high spot there. Now, to dismantle the thing, you file just enough off that diameter to enable you to force the outer sleeve off and over it. You pull the giblets out, taking note of which way that little plastic seal holder is on the spring. You press those two barbs down to release the inner diameter, taking note of the orientation of that hole so that you can put it back in the right place. You file a bit off that diameter and polish it all up, taking care not to make any scratches further down. Put the O-ring back in, push the thing back together, And it does work, because there's still enough of a lip on there to stop the thing coming off, especially when you put the O-ring back on. Now the O-ring seems to be a 2mm section O-ring for a 16mm inside diameter. I just guesstimated them with the calipers. Didn't do any scientific measurements or anything. Anyway, the thing seems to work. I don't know whether that plastic will continue swelling under the effects of petrol or not. I don't really think the thing's fit for purpose. You shouldn't have to resort to things like this on such an expensive item, but there we are. So I hope this little video helps somebody out, and if it does help you, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel. Helps me, and it doesn't cost you anything. And then of course, if you wanted to get really flash, you could make yourself a little cap, a little top hat shaped cap that would fit over there, and fasten it on the end, from the end, with a self tapper. But I don't think I'm going to bother.